Jeffrey Epstein's name back in the headlines this week. This time via a new information dump from Congress. Hours of footage and more than 30,000 documents of the so-called Epstein files released this week by a congressional panel. Now, while Donald Trump's camp hopes that this new release will tone down the pressure to reveal more about his and other people's relationship with the disgraced financier, Democrats and even some MAGA Republicans aren't exactly sold.
No matter what you do, it's going to keep going.
Here's how another installment of the Epstein saga unfolded this week from the White House. The Republican-led House Judiciary Committee okaying a massive release of Epstein docs back on September 2nd. Now, what did this new round of evidence reveal? Not much. Most of the panel's dump contained information already in the public sphere. It was either circulating via court documents or other public disclosures. A small fraction of the latest release contained documents or information that was not already in the public domain.
97% have already been released to the public.
That included Epstein's flight logs from Custom and Border Protection showing him entering and leaving the country several times on his plane. The release also containing interviews with alleged Epstein victims, body camera footage of police searching his big palatial estate down in Palm Beach, Florida, and the quote-unquote missing minute of the prison video taken the night of Epstein's alleged suicide here in Manhattan, which contradicts Pam Bondi's explanation for why that minute was missing in the first place.
Every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing.
That's a story for another day. Now, I don't know if the idea here is to just keep releasing the same information over and over again until people just forget and move on from this whole thing, but as George W. Bush once eloquently put it,
"Fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again."
So as anti-Trump protesters marched in D.C. this week, Epstein victims met with congressional leaders in tearful meetings on the Hill, demanding accountability.
We are not asking for pity. We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice.
Some of these survivors threatening to release their own quote-unquote client list, which would be a compilation of alleged abusers connected to Epstein.
Us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names.
Essentially, they are demanding the government release the names that they say they already have, but will not release out of fear for their own lives.
The fear is very real for us.
Those victims also expressing outrage that Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, was transferred to a Club Fed type minimum security prison in Texas shortly after meeting with Trump's DOJ officials earlier this summer.
We were horrified to learn that she had been transferred to a prison camp. She was a major architect of the scheme, and the fact that she's painted herself as a victim, I think, is disgusting.
Some believe that is paving the way for a pardon from the White House.
One of my worst nightmares, that she not only be transferred, but at the possibility that she might be pardoned.
For what it's worth, Trump has said he hasn't thought about it, but he also did say that he was, quote,
allowed to do it.
Which of course he is because she was convicted on federal charges. All of this coming amid a somewhat bipartisan effort to force a House vote on a bill that would compel the Justice Department to release all of its Epstein information, all of those documents, all of those files within the next 30 days, something that the White House called a, quote, hostile act and looks very unlikely to happen. At the forefront of this, Representative Thomas Massie. He is a Kentucky Republican, technically a Republican, really more of a libertarian. He's become one of the biggest thorns in the side of the White House in the second Trump term.
I don't know if that's precedented in this country to have a president call legislators to say that they're engaged in a hostile act, particularly when the so-called hostile act is trying to get justice for people who've been victims of sex crimes.
But Massie's pursuits aren't really in vain here. The Republican Party is splintered over the Epstein scandal. Some voices within MAGA calling for more information on the convicted sex offender's crimes, as well as his ties to the rich and powerful, including the current president, with whom Epstein, we know, had a close relationship before Trump said he cut him off years before he was convicted of those sex crimes. So some GOP lawmakers, like Massie as well as Marjorie Taylor Greene, they are still demanding answers.
Go for the truth and defend these women and help those of us in Congress that are crossing our political party lines for doing the right thing and trying to do it together.
And despite their best efforts, Republican leaders are not really escaping the Epstein problem, no matter how hard they try. The scandal reigniting the same day Congress returned from summer recess which, remember, started early this year because House Speaker Mike Johnson attempted to sideline a vote on releasing those files back in July. Now, Johnson continues to play favorite to Trump while attempting to appease the skeptical wing of the party with vows for transparency.
I think we follow the truth where it leads. I think that's the responsibility of Congress.
This guy really does have probably the hardest job in Washington. Democrats, meanwhile, saying the release would help deliver justice to Epstein victims, but that's not really what this is about. There is, of course, a political motive here. They are looking for anything and everything possible to tie Trump to Epstein.
Says he doesn't believe you're implicated in these files, but many of your friends and donors may be, and he says that's why the Justice Department is redacting them and slow-walking the release.
This story has been a rare example of something that has kind of thrown Trump off kilter. He has not been able to put it to bed despite his best efforts. And all of this despite the fact that we know Epstein cavorted with plenty of high-profile Democrats as well, including former President Bill Clinton. So while the DOJ may still release some more information, despite a recent about-face about the even existence of the so-called client list,
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Trump continues, as always, to rail against the whole thing as a hoax.
This is a Democrat hoax that never ends.
So where does this week's Epstein drama leave us? Well, as it has ever since he left this mortal plane 6 years ago now, with more questions than answers.